What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. There are a few different directions this video could go, but I feel like garbage, so let's start with the most important. My newest short story, Night Hunter of Lesser Annam, is available on Amazon. However, we're going the KDP Select route with this one, which is what we did with Vanessa, and we didn't do with Hangman. So if you have Amazon Prime, this story is free. And I also made Hangman free, and the link will be in the description. We talked about this a while ago, but I don't write anywhere near as much as I'd like to be writing, because the reward versus the cost is all screwed up. Even if you want to write something shorter, like a novelette, which is around 15,000 words, you'd be surprised how draining writing something even that short is. And you combine that with the fact nobody reads, and it seems like the longer a text is, the less likely people are to read it, which is one of the reasons I shifted into novelettes. Aside from the fact, effort when you're writing, the longer a book gets, the strain compounds. It's not like writing 15,000 words and then another 15,000 words and then another 15,000 words and then another 15,000 words for the 60,000 you need. Every step further you take, the resistance and the drain grows. And unless you're already established as an author, someone people will read, or you have your foot in the door with literary agents or publishing houses, you're torturing yourself more to get even less of a result. And we did a little writing on the Patreon, thinking it was going to turn into an episodic thing, but you run into the exact same issue, although you have fewer restrictions when you are, quotes, publishing, self-publishing on Patreon. But another issue I ran into was the fact, or the way, when you're publishing like that, you aren't building up your portfolio the way you would be otherwise. It's the same reason I continue to use Fiverr for tarot, or why I use YouTube for videos. Work you publish on a platform like Patreon, especially if you tuck it away, you're reaching even fewer people, and on top of that, you are also not building yourself up in a way and in a place people build themselves up. So, knowing you almost certainly won't get anywhere with writing, why continue to do it in any form? Well, I think it's the same reason I continue to do YouTube. Although on YouTube we found a little bit of success. It's the same reason I continued to do YouTube back in the day when there was nothing. It feels more like you're building out a net, hoping some way you'll get success, someday. Doing something you do enjoy doing. But once again, writing is trickier because it feels like the more effort you put into a longer bit of writing or a book, the less likely you are to succeed. Same with YouTube videos. There are people who dump insane quality into singular videos once a year, once every 2 years, and find great success. But part of the thing behind that, or the reason behind that, I think in most cases, is marketing. Knowing what's going to sell or people will want to watch, and knowing how to get it to them. Because you do YouTube, and this was more when I was beginning YouTube. You interact with a lot of other smaller YouTubers, and there are people who put great effort into their videos, immense effort into their videos, and then they get nowhere. Same principle here, except people like YouTube videos, and they don't like books very much. And even among the people who do like books, how broad is the category of the sort of person who likes reading so much they will go out and seek shit that hasn't been discovered before. That sort of audience exists more on YouTube for YouTube videos, more now than they did back then, actually. But that's not the case with books, or any sort of writing. And I feel I don't have a lot of positive feelings or opinions for poets, but it's even worse for them. It feels like the way to go, especially these days, in anything you do, this could be online business too, is to build up your name, build up your brand, and then sell using that. Any success, online success I've had, came from the channel first. But at the same time, you need stuff available for people to purchase or to engage with, which is one of the reasons in our situation, you do continue writing. But you can't be a dummy about it. Quantity, not exactly quality, although I try to keep quality within range. And at an effort level, it won't bother you if it goes nowhere. Because how many books have I written? 2 completed novels, and probably around 3 half novels. Maybe one I'm forgetting. Because there was one I totally forgot that I was super into for a while I was writing it. But the point is, writing a book and then watching it utterly fall flat is devastating. All that work for nothing. Versus something like one of these short stories. You can knock one of these out in an afternoon, so you aren't losing much time. And also, while you aren't satisfying your grander narrative fantasies, you're still getting the poison out, while also building out your net, broadening your body of content people can engage with, and also building up your image and your brand at the same time. In other words, in all these things, you are doing the things you want to do in ways you'll mostly feel good about that also don't take too much of your time and soul and energy, while also essentially scratching off little lotto tickets. With one of these short stories or one of these videos, guaranteed, none of these are going to knock it out of the park. I don't envision any of my videos going crazy the way you'll see some videos do, including videos that are similar to mine, but that's okay because it means I can make content and say things I'm happy with, limited concessions, while also slowly developing an audience. You aren't hitting a home run, but you are getting people in your stadium. So I think this is the direction we'll take with writing going forward. I can maybe rework one of my half novels into a collection of short stories, because that was the way it was constructed, but they were supposed to lead into one another. Maybe we cap it and publish it and return to it if we feel like it. But I like feeling like I am accomplishing something, building something out. It's the same thing I do with the weightlifting stuff. Even if I don't have a great workout, I can circle one of the muscle groups I worked that day, and then over time you get to see that you have done things. Even if physically it doesn't look like you've done anything. That's the way you keep yourself doing things, at least to me. Seeing you are achieving milestones even if you aren't really getting anywhere right now. Because getting anywhere, especially if you're doing it the hard way, takes so much longer than you think it would. And that's if you get anywhere at all. But it feels like you have to put your face against the cheese grater every day if you want the chance of anything to happen. Because the moment you stop grating your face, the possibility goes out the window. And I do want things to happen. I like succeeding, I like money, yes, but I also like feeling like I am participating in existence. I'd love to reach a point I can publish a book so I can know at least one person will have a physical copy of my book and will enjoy reading it with some coffee or some tea or some shit while it's raining. I like feeling like I exist. And unfortunately, part of that involves affecting other people in some way. It's not enough to do something. You need, or at least I need, to feel witnessed, even if it's only a little bit. And to warrant witnessing is another thing. That's why I don't like cheap shit. What Hemingway called tricks, and he blamed, or he accused Joyce of being the ultimate trick employer. And I think he had some kind of beef with Faulkner too, but Hemingway hated everybody. It's another reason I love him. And that means slow growth, earned growth, producing things people want to witness, not are forced to witness, not are tricked into witnessing, but want to witness, positively or negatively. Anything to elicit a true reaction out of a person. That's how I know I'm alive. That's when I feel good about myself. That's one of the reasons I'll force myself to say shit I don't want to say or don't feel comfortable saying, or covering topics I don't feel comfortable covering or know won't be received well, because it's a measuring stick. Are you unhewn someone to be witnessed? Are you a living waterfall or a cool mountain? And writing is part of that because it feels different from the videos I make. And it's odd because you'd think they'd be completely different, but no, they are similar. When I'm writing, especially these days, I'm not just telling the story I'm telling, because I've come to approach writing similarly to the way I approach tarot, which is, I know there's more going on here, so as I'm telling my story, righteousness demands a diversion or some element I hadn't been thinking of, which I think is different from the typical writerly diversions. Your characters of the story takes you in whatever direction they want to take you, you know that. Hack shit. I'm talking about those moments in a tarot reading. There is some detail that is incongruous with the rest, and you'd prefer not to include it because that point makes everything not line up how prettily it was lining up. But you include it because you know it's important, and almost always it does end up being important. It's hard to explain. I believe in the reins off approach to writing, which is to say, not going in with a selected message you will try to force people to understand, because that's irritating. And you also miss the good shit when you do that, and the good shit is never anything you intended. An example with this story I just wrote. Night Hunter of Lesser Annam. You can read it in probably between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on how quickly you read. I am telling a brief story about a night hunter, but with this style of writing, it feels more like the way music feels to me. A song can say a lot more than what its lyrics say. And that's how this story feels, or that's how this style of writing feels. It's more like a song, especially considering it's brief. This is really hard to explain. You're not sending a singular message. You aren't even communicating any one idea. It's more like you have assembled a small pool and you fill it up with a vibe, and you get in the pool and float around in the vibe for a while. And at least for me, the most important messages or revelations about life or from life you get happen when you're in one of these vibe states. And the vibe here has something to do with the fear of being part of something and also alien to it. I did a few takes on this trying to figure out the vibe, but it's probably better not to try to put words on it until you know what the words you need are. So if you have Amazon Prime, I strongly recommend you go read it and leave a review if you like it. And if you're curious but don't have Amazon Prime, it's $1. It's a trance. That's what it is. You're using a substance, or you're using a medium or media, like music, or maybe like these short stories. I think I'll continue writing because this was not so bad. You thin your single-celled walls a bit, and then messages can come in. That's why mood is so important. Mood gets you into these mild, altered states. I'll be a mood writer. Although I have other ideas, this started from the idea of writing a short story for a selection of characters for a fighting game or something like that. Notable people, or maybe not so notable people, but following their last days on Earth before they get yoinked and put into some Mortal Kombat bullshit. So, moody, reflective stories into dumb action and or drama shit. That's probably not going to happen, but I do like the framework. Characters with particular outlooks dealing with their last days alive. Hopefully, if we do enough things over a long enough period of time with just enough quality, then we can become someone or get somewhere without making these soul-selling concessions. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.